All right, we're live. Okay, so we got Evie Calderon,
Peter
Arroyo here. This is gonna be episode 1 podcast of our. Yes, we're outside right now, outside of MPG
Fitness in Aurora, Illinois.
Great gym.
Yes.
It's real nice out today. Hopefully everyone can hear us. All right, so I guess this is gonna be like an introductory episode. Let's do that.
Uh-oh.
So I guess. Well, you got somebody
Rachel
waving.
there.
Oh,
She's
Rachel's
watching.
here. What's up, Rachel? We're doing also Instagram Live right now. So.
Wave at some people. There's some people.
Oh,
there.
some
I don't
people
know who
waving.
these-
What's up? What's up?
Coach HJJ.
Cool.
Joseph Lima. All right,
cool.
dudes.
All right, so this is an introductory type of thing right here.
You gotta wave at
Let's start. You can wave at them. I don't know
Yeah,
how to
look
use
at that.
live.
You just hit
Okay,
the
cool.
button.
I was just saying hi. All right, so this is the introduction. All right, so I know this is not
It's all right.
working.
We'll work. We'll
Whatever.
make it work.
All right, so basically, first question here we're gonna do is, who are we? Go ahead, Pete. You can start.
Okay.
Who are we?
My name's Peter Arroyo, owner of operator of PIT, Strength, Speed, and Power, SSP. And I have been in the game, in the private sector strength and conditioning game / personal training since 2000 and, god damn, when was my first year? 2002. 2002, and I've been lucky enough to be in this west suburb of Chicago for that period of time.
Cool. All right, I'm Evie Calderon, currently at Lewis University, playing softball last year, this year. Going to be a senior, graduating with an exercise science major, possibly coaching minor. I've been obsessed with training for a while. I've been doing it smart for I would say like 3 years.
2 seconds. Oh.
2 seconds. I would say like 2 to 3 years.
You've only been doing it smart since she's met me.
Since I've met him, of course. You'll notice his ego as we go through here.
There's no ego here. It's just
But yeah, I've been working out for I would say 6 years, but I've been doing it actually more educated the last 2 or 3 years. And then yeah, that's me. I guess how we met.
God, well, you started.
I started.
I think it was something where like so typically, I'm an old school guy, so I always, I really like when you have to go out and reach out to people. Now I think it's a little bit too informal. Let's wave to this person.
Oh wait, who's that?
I don't know.
Oh, what's up?
Peen
Bert
Tep. Peen Bert Tep. All right. But anyways, to me the old school way was the way if we wanted to learn something, we went out and sought that person out, talk with them, try to strike up a rapport and train with them, and that's essentially kind of how that happened, but in more of this new era of
online.
Yeah. So I was on Zach Evanesh's podcast.
Yes. So Zach Evanesh, shout out,
go ahead.
our favorite guy, one of my favorite guys.
Underground
Strength Gym out in New Jersey. We gotta go visit one time.
Jersey.
Yeah. So basically, I heard Pete Arroyo on the podcast, and I was like, oh shit, he's in Aurora, Illinois, and I live in Chicago. I also go to school in Rosemont, so I was like, I listened to the podcast, and I was like, oh, this guy kind of sounds like knows what he's talking about. So I was,
all right.
So I was like, oh, that's my teammate right now.
All right, what's up, teammate?
What's up?
We're waving at Maddie
Hessing.
Maddie Hessing.
Yeah. So anyway.
All right, Maddie Hessing.
Basically, I reached out and I was like, hey, I heard you on Zach's podcast, and I was like, let's meet up. I just wanted to see what it was about because he's talked a lot about conjugate, and at that time I was deep into conjugate, maybe a little too much, maybe a little fly or die. It's a Lewis saying.
Oh.
But I was really into conjugate at that time, and I still am. Still use that in everyday, like, we could talk more about that in another episode about how conjugates and everything. But basically, I was like, okay, let me connect with this guy. So I connected with him literally a few days after, right? We talked.
Was it we talked or you Instagram messaged?
I Instagram messaged you,
okay.
And you were like, yeah, let's do it. It was like a 6 a.m. workout, I think, too. I drove
yeah, so that was a bit of a test.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Anybody that wants to intern with me, I'll get some weird
time
like that.
I was there at 6 a.m.
And sometimes you'll get the ones that show up, or, oh no, that's too early for me. And if it's too early for you, fuck off. Don't come in.
Exactly.
And she didn't. So,
yeah. So 6 a.m. I'm pretty sure. And then Yeah, we had a workout in. I told him, he was like, oh, do whatever you want. I was like, no, I want to do what you're doing, see what's going on. So we did a workout together.
Yeah, so that's essentially the way the reason I do that, interns or whatever. That's how I got my first job. Was no one's gonna remember this, possibly watching this. Who is this? Trevor. What's up, Trevor?
He's a cool guy.
God,
what are you doing?
I'm trying to hit the wave. I'm trying to wave at these people and acknowledge them. You're not doing that.
All right.
I'm doing it on your phone. But when I was kind of ended school quick there, kind of got cut short, so I was bagging groceries and but working on my own, and I was on Mel Siff's Super Training Forum, which probably nobody on here is going to either remember, if they remember
Some
it.
coaches might.
If they remember that, then you know what, you're probably worth your sand, doing what you do. But anyways, I was on that forum, and I was answering questions, and I get it was an email list, so it's kind of like it was an email-based forum. So now a lot of people have their own forums. So imagine that, but just everything's emailed. So I got a private email from one of the members there, a guy named John Oler, who ended up giving me my start. But this is how it worked. He's like, I like the answers to a lot of your questions. I noticed your call tag, because you had to put a call tag at the end of it, like your name, where you're from. So I put a general tag. I was Chicago, Illinois. So Chicago was like big area.
Bay Area, everyone knows it. Yeah.
I was living in a place called South Holland, which south suburb. No one knows that. Probably where the hell that is. So I figured like Chicago. Okay, so anyway, this guy invites me to his gym out in Naperville, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of familiar with it. I used to go to school around there. So all right, go up there, and at the time, she's talking about conjugate, but at the time in that early 2000s, late 90s era, the West Side barbell system was very like it was hot at the time with coaches.
Around what year?
2001, 2002.
2001,
Because I remember first reading about it in what's now known as T Nation, but it was testosterone.net back then.
T Nation, yeah.
And then
more like a boys club now.
I don't know what it is now.
It's more, yeah.
I don't know what they do. I occasionally get emails, but testosterone.net, and then there was Deep Squatter Forum. Jason Brunel, I think, was that guy's name? I think it was Jason. But anyways, it was all West Side stuff, and Dave Tate was just beginning writing and everything back then. Oh, Viv, it's Running Murphy. Where is she? Viv, you're supposed to be at school. Why are you on the phone right now? You're supposed to be at school. And they got the cell phone rule in there, so anyways, hello. What the hell? All right, where was I? Anyways, I mean, that was kind of hot at the time, so that was like the first wave of the word conjugate even being used, but for us it was West Side Barbell
Early
System
2000s,
or whatever like
yeah.
that. But anyways, so John invites me up, and we did a workout. It was a box squat workout in his gym, and at the time I was at some commercial gym out, and it was called Gators Gym out in Highland, Indiana. It's not there anymore, but it was kind of an old school hardcore place. But I was trying to do that. I was teaching myself on my own. They had like wood boxes that I would use, and I think I practiced box squatting. My rule was, every time I'd go down and drop a number 2, I would do 5 squats before, then 5 squats after. So I taught myself the technique every time I took a dump. Anyways,
oh my God.
Well, hey, that's the way it was. What do you want? But anyways, I go up there and do this box squat workout with John. He's like, damn, you're pretty good at the techniques, and you can coach them too. You want a job? And I'm like, yes, I want a job.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I didn't even ask what it paid. Little I found out a few weeks later, it was like $8 an hour, which was basically the same I got bagging groceries. But I got to train some people in this awesome gym, and like my first
Gym
7
culture.
guys. Yeah, my first 7 guys. It was like, kind of like what Buddy Morris said when he was at Pitt. The hardest job I had to do was turn the lights on and off. But I had 5 guys that were in Power 5 football. The other 2 were professionals. One was the
already starting
NFL.
up working there.
That was the
that's
first
awesome.
guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
And the other guy was, I'm waving at all your people, Evie.
Oh yeah, I got a bunch of people coming on.
This.
What's up, guys?
Man, you got a lot of folks here.
Oh, that's one of my buddies from weightlifting club.
There you go.
What's up, Cam?
But anyways, that's how I got started in the other 2 guys were pro guys, and then the Power 5 guys, a couple of them got drafted. So that was like
that's cool. That's
how
cool
we got,
to start there.
And they were all from one high school,
Yeah.
Naperville North High School at the time.
Naperville North.
They were all Naperville North grads for the most part. I want to say one of them was not, but
This was early 2000s or
2002.
2002. Oh, you see, I was just born. I was just baby.
Yeah, I know. And it was out of a powerhouse gym. So the owner John had, at the time, it was. Look at now, it was ahead of its time. It was called ESP Athletics, Explosive Speed and Power, and that's what we did. So it's not much different from what I do now.
Yeah.
It's just back then we were a lot more. Wait a minute, this dude here, way more. We were following that West Side barbell system back then. So that's kind of where it all started. It was super cool. We had a little room in the back room of the powerhouse, a commercial gym, which if anybody remembers that chain, it was kind of like the carryover from the 80s and 90s kind of, Gold's Gym kind of vibe. So
it's a good vibe.
That's where I started. Yeah.
Where he started.
That's
way back when.
Yeah, in 2000s doing it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess next topic is. What are we doing here? What are we doing all talking outside right now?
You go ahead on that. What
all
are
right,
you doing
so
here?
basically what am I doing here? All right, I need an internship for my semester. I've worked a lot of places and interned at a lot of places, but this one is the one that actually counts for school. So this one is supposed to be very I guess more intensive, we could say.
Intensive, in-depth. Going to expose you to a lot because we do so I work with, even though I'm a one-man show, there's been a lot of other services around it that have, taken upon themselves to badmouth what I do. Well, I don't give a 2 shits about what they think. But bottom line is, I've been a one-man show working with teams and individuals probably for the better part of that 20 years. So you can combine all the staffs you want, and they're not going to have the experience or know-how. What I do, they may have their academic buttons and read a lot of, research
and that's something
studies.
I've learned a lot. Some people that know the most, they have not got either finished or they don't have all the degrees you want.
Well, that's fine. I was listening to a recent podcast, and here comes a rant, but there was a general on a podcast. I was listening to this old general, and again, a general who's, typically has seen some war. Like, put it this way: if you want to put a general in charge of an army, you would want somebody who's ate some dirt and not just read about it.
Right, exactly. Who's gone through it.
So,
who's
man,
done
we've got some more
stuff.
people here. Oh. So, on that note, he had made a quote of, degrees are fine, and he said thermometers have degrees, and you know where people stick those.
Him and all his sayings, you'll learn that. Oh, Nico, what's up, Nico?
Hey, Nico. All right. But anyways, it comes down to this. We talk about science and practice. Everybody likes to be science-based now, and science this. It's like, well, it all kind of started.
It's just testing.
So let's just talk strength or whatever, performance, at the beginning of time. Were there any scientific studies that told somebody what to do? No. There was some caveman that decided to pick up a rock so he can kill the animal.
Yep.
Right, or somebody who's trying to kill him. And they were like, oh, this kind of feels good.
It made you feel good, feel stronger, yeah.
Right, there was practice and trial and error.
What is that, Milo? What is that one? The
Milo of Croton. Yeah, picking up the bull and
picking up the bull thing. Yeah.
The whole gist of progressive overload, which is a great. It's a great
starting point.
It's a
great
analogy.
starting point.
We can go into depth on that more later.
Yeah.
But anyways, so my whole thing is, if you don't have a whole lot of trial and error underneath your belt, then you probably don't know shit.
Exactly.
You
can read all the books. You can do all that.
Right. Like Buddy Morris says, science seeks answers, training seeks results. Let science do its job on the back half and kind of figure out like, oh, this is kind of like what happened from a physiological standpoint, psychological standpoint. The bottom line is a lot of these studies, especially in America, Joseph Johnson says it, and it's kind of true. We don't really study athletes. Part of the reason is these studies have a lot of, it always says untrained individuals or this and that. And there's very few stuff out there that truly studies athletes.
Truly studies for athletes.
And the thing is, there's so many things that can interfere with the control, because it's like, what exactly are you studying in what environment? A lot of athletes, a lot of sports that we love here in America, you look at the Big Four or any type of field or court sport, and it's kind of chaotic. There's all types of things going on. So to kind of study with, one aspect, you can't discount interference.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like, like you playing softball, right? It's outdoor sports have the mercy of weather. So how could you program and periodize practice? How could you
it's chaotic.
If you're on deck and the lighting all of a sudden shade comes in, your eyes got to adjust all of a sudden. It's like it's tough to study all that stuff. Yeah, we could have all the basics, but man, you got to have experience doing it to get better, and hopefully your coaches have that as well.
Yeah, and personally, that's where I've learned the most. I love to read, I love to watch videos, but once I started actually training people, that's when I started making those big, I guess, climbing those hills or whatever you want to say. Like, that's when I started making progress. Like, I was researching always before, but then once I started interning, once I started working, like, and actually training people, that's when I was like, oh, like, this is how you actually learn, and this is how you actually learn stuff. You need experience.
Yeah, you gotta get, if you're a strength person, you gotta get under the bar. If you're a speed person, you gotta get on the track. If you're a gymnastics person, you gotta do all that stuff.
You gotta do it.
If you're a baseball person, get on the diamond. If you're a football person, get on the gridiron.
Yeah.
Or even if you didn't do it, go out there and coach.
Yeah, coach. And then that's, I guess, what we're talking about here is what are we doing here? I'm getting that experience, getting more experience. I guess we're focusing more on podcasts, educational development, because I've had a lot of experience training like teams and stuff, but I'm still going to have that as well. Yeah. But I guess we're focusing more on the social media, podcast, online side.
Yeah, we're basically a big part of her internship is going to be, I guess, because I'm not big on social media, probably because none of you here have probably ever seen me before, but I do have a wealth of knowledge. I know that.
Very smart guy.
I do have a lot of experience, and I have a lot of practice under my belt. A lot of it being a one-man show, it's like I can easily put a lot of time dedication on social media and whatever, but it's like, what am I actually doing on the floor?
Yep.
So I want to be able to tell those stories, show it, get her insight as well, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that I don't realize and I don't see. Sometimes, like today, we're going to have Galaxy Soccer come in, and we're going to have 30 per hour come in hour after hour, going from 6:30 till 9:30 at night. I'm not going to catch everything, right? I'm not going to see everything. Right. I'm going to coach up the basics best I can, and then we have some one-on-one sessions there as well. So and I train some adults, which is, it's always great to get insight and experience from all types, because you're dealing with all types of different factors. Because when they walk in the door, you don't actually know what you're getting until they walk in the door. They could have been smashed by a practice. Somebody could have had some life happenings happen. They could have. Especially the adults are going to be they want to do a lot of recreational sports, which is great. Sometimes there's a cost to that. You could have a bad day at school. You don't know what you're going to get a lot of the times. So I think with this whole social media stuff is we're going to try and tell those stories and help coaches out and help other, hopefully educate parents and kids on, what an actual good coaching practices are, as opposed to just falling for the typical social media marketing stuff. Like, if you got to go hard on your social media marketing, I totally understand it. But if that's what you're focusing on and not putting not making the rubber meet the road, then what are you actually doing?
Exactly. All right.
But I guess that's what we're doing here.
That's what we're doing.
Trying to make
and we'll do like Q&A podcasts as well. Like, I'll put up a poll. We can both put up a poll and like Q&A, like what people want to hear.
You can do all that. I'm not doing that
I'll
shit.
do that. Yeah, I'm obviously more used to the social media. Growing
you taught
up
me
in
how
it.
to do all that.
Yeah,
stuff,
I've been
so
trying to pushing him into getting more out there on the social media, because that's how I've met personally a lot of coaches. That's how I met Pete. Like, social media has connected people from East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South, down South. Like, I've met. And I know so many people from
Tom Rowe out in England. That's how he got a hold of me.
Exactly.
England?
Even outside of
I thought he was down the street. You want to come have a coffee or something, or a beer?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why
I'm out in England, mate. And I'm like, what the
mate?
That's what he said.
Oh my God. Yeah, but anyway, that's what I think. Social media is also good for our industry, but also can be bad, showing all this.
Don't fall for the gimmicks.
Yeah, don't fall for everything. I mean, it's good to try out different stuff, but you can tell.
If it looks like a trick, it probably is, folks.
All right. If they promise you in 10 days. It's a trick.
That's all it takes is 10 days?
In 10 days, you can be the best athlete. Well,
really?
Whatever. All right, next topic, I guess. Training backgrounds. You kind of went over that a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little more about that?
Yeah, I guess we can go more in depth. I guess on my end, so I was just a guy who, you play. I was a baseball guy, believe it or not. Played at the low levels. I guess wasn't any good. I guess, but you got a lot of piss and vinegar, and when it's done, you still feel like you got something left in the tank. So that's when I kind of found a strength sport. So I found powerlifting. But before that, I actually was taught by a guy by the name of Lance Vermeil, rest in peace. But I was out there and I had to cross the border in Cherville, Indiana. Went to a place called Omni 41, and it was just a place called Athletic Development. And that's where I ran into Lance. And Lance exposed me to the weight lifts initially, which was great. I mean, he went over everything in detail. I still use all those progressions today teaching kids, even though I never weightlifted. And that's probably one of my biggest regrets is not sticking with weightlifting, because I think in the bridging the gap of the strength sports, that's probably one of the more where you can kind of keep your athleticism. I think that's one of the best ones, because then you can go if you want to go into
weightlifting, meaning Olympic lifts and stuff like that. Got you.
Clean and jerk. Yeah. It allows you a lot of lateralization where you can go into strongman, you can go into powerlifting if you so wish. I mean, we got CrossFit to thank for a lot of that exposure more recently.
Right.
Despite what
CrossFit is,
despite maybe the practices of it with weightlifting, me being I'm a little bit more on the purist end. Looks like your computer.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
But anyways, that's probably one of my training regrets. But thank Lance a lot for literally taking me underneath his wing and showing some meathead guy how to do all that. So
we all start at I feel like a lot of people start off meathead, 3 big lifts, bench, squat, deadlift.
And that's what I did. Reading the West Side stuff got me right into
That's a great way to start
training myself, Powerlifting USA, training myself for powerlifting. Then started competing in 02. Had a good run up to 2012. As it got more extreme, God, it was crazy during those times, but. Definitely a powerlifting influence as far as my own, but that doesn't mean I train people like that.
No, he does not.
There's it's almost like two roads. Like I've coached lifters before, and that's one road. Athletes, you might apply some things principally.
Conjugate.
If you
read
my 2 books, it's almost the same book, but for 2 different things.
Yeah.
Applying that, I guess you can call it the conjugate.
Which I've been seeing a lot more I've seen a lot more conjugate, bringing up everything, like necessarily that's what you're doing. Well, that is what you're doing, conjugate, but in a different way, in a more athletic way.
Right, because you gotta look at it from that standpoint. What does conjugate mean?
What is it?
It really means if you dig deep.
It isn't just dynamic and max effort. No. It's way more than that. It's simply incorporating multiple different methods.
It's simply linking it to the sport. So now you got to look at the context of what sport are you looking to link the training to.
Yeah.
And I think initially with the West Side barbell stuff, that lens, it's real easy to link barbell lifts to a barbell sport because barbells is the sport.
Right.
Now,
easily transferable.
Yes. Well, it transfers that whole other thing. I mean, you can do something with a barbell that doesn't transfer to a barbell lift. It's like a bicep curl. It's not gonna whatever. But linking the kind of like strength, speed, and power to a sport. Now, obviously, the younger the athlete, they're going to need less and less specificity because they don't, especially these days, they don't have any general nothing. There's no general anything out there. So you might be providing that. I mean, I look at what I do now with these high school kids. For 4 years, I might be just doing general physical preparedness stuff. A lot of it is teaching them techniques of how to do this properly so they don't get killed when they go into a weight room in college, or for some of them go into a weight room in life.
Yeah.
That's one thing I definitely pride myself on is passing on at least the technical ability,
some knowledge
to do that, to hold your own in a weight room, because when you're in a weight room with
people get scared, especially nowadays.
Especially if you don't know what you're doing. If you're new to it and you go to college and you're handed a sheet or a card and you say do this, and you're not really being
guided. Not being guided.
Well, it's tough if you've never done it and they're trying to.
fix in your life?
I'm gonna go off.
All right.
Anyways, if you haven't been
taught any.
Yeah, and it takes time sometimes to get certain technique down. I mean, truly to benefit from it. If you haven't had any of that time underneath any type of load or with any coaching, and it's tough sometimes. You're in a gym class and there's 500 people in it or whatever, and
you can't get that much special.
That's if they even have it,
yeah.
Right? And it's tough to like learn it on your own, despite looking at people on Instagram. That's just not how it works.
Definitely.
In the real world, it's tough because you get thrown to the wolves. It's like, oh shit, what do I do?
Right.
So that's one thing. Definitely have.
That you pride yourself in,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's your training background a little bit. I guess my training background would be. I actually started off in high school doing a bunch of, I would say, smarter CrossFit, not like generally what you think when you hear
smarter
CrossFit. Yeah. One of my high school coach, actually my softball coach, he got me into. He does CrossFit, and he's very educated on that, and I did that for a little bit. But it was also like mixed in with some like lifting, like regular lifting, like bench, squat, deadlift.
Okay.
So I would do that every morning, and I would do CrossFit at like the evening. Every morning I'd lift heavy or whatever. Then CrossFit later, just like some basically conditioning type work. That's what I started with. Then I interned with JD Strength and Performance. Great guy. Saw more of the athlete side of things, got more of like the actual conditioning stuff, quick feet, speed stuff, sprints and stuff, all that things. That's where I then went to, and then now I started looking more into, actually, one of the buddies I worked with at JD Strength and Performance, Chris Etsy, he got me more into the conjugate world. He threw me in there and was like, let me show you this. He's like, you like this? Let me show you conjugate. So then that's when I got into conjugate. That's when I started doing a bunch of literally like exactly what you could think of, max effort, dynamic effort.
So you talk about your, I talk about my lens of conjugate. What about that attracted you to that?
Doing multiple things. I don't just like doing lifting heavy all the time, lifting heavy. I don't just like doing bodybuilding. I don't like just doing speed. Like, I like to do everything at once, and I just want to be the best athlete I can be, whether it's for softball or just in life. Eventually, like, I'm obviously almost done with softball, so it's going to just be for life.
Right.
And what drew me in was I'm doing all these things. I'm getting heavy work, high rep work, conditioning. I'm lifting fast, lifting slow, doing all this, and that's where I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah. And the other pillar, I think, of the conjugate thing, it's great at giving you exposures to multiple things, which ultimately
multiple aspects,
to multiple biomotor qualities.
Exactly. And it made me feeling the best at that point.
Right.
And then I got a little stagnant, and I was like, what am I missing? And that's right around where I met like Pete, and I was doing conjugate, like regular stuff, like basically when you look up on conjugate.com.
The nuts and bolts.
The nuts and bolts of it, yeah. And then I met Pete, and then he did conjugate as well, but he incorporated a lot more athletic stuff. And that's what I really was like, oh, like this is conjugate for athletes. Because I was doing conjugate more like powerlifting, but not really. As a lifter would.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
more transfer when you add the more sprints, jumps, all that stuff.
When you're an athlete, you gotta be like Dan John says, right? You gotta be good at multiple things.
Yep.
Right. Good. You don't have to be great at any one, but you can be good at multiple things, and you can get better at them slowly. That's the whole point.
And people want these things fast, but
well, that's the problem, right? I mean, but a lot of it again is to get better at a sport. The best thing you can do is get better at that sport. Find the weak point in your skill set.
The amount of time I've heard that on a podcast, and Austin Yoakum says that a lot.
And let the GPP, the SPP, whatever the heck you want to call it, let the gym work. Let's just call it gym work and track work.
Help aid that.
Underpin and amplify that skill set.
And allow you to do it more.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of these coaches will try to do like, or whatever, they'll try to sell the sport-specific gimmick. And it's just like, okay, great. Parents aren't going to know the difference, unfortunately, because if it looks like the sport, it must help it. It's like,
90% of those kids aren't even ready for that.
No.
I would say pro athletes is when you're what?
And really, even pro athletes wouldn't even like benefit from it.
Even then, they need more.
They already have the skill set.
Yeah, they're just broken, and they need to fix up, feel better.
They need to be able to stay on the field. They need to be more available to their team.
Exactly.
To play more innings, minutes, whatever
it is. Yeah, so I guess, all right, that's my training background. All right, and how we program now.
Oh,
you
God.
can go ahead. Now, this is going to be like 20 minutes now.
I don't know. This could be a whole other thing. How I program what?
Let's talk about how you program for athletes.
Okay.
Yes, athletes. But also, first is for your athletes.
Okay.
Let's get a quick, less than 10 minutes.
To try. Timing.
Just a quick little synopsis about how you would train athletes.
So it all starts with an eval of some sort. And for me, I'm not going to be one of these places. Like, put it this way: if you have a chiropractor or massage table in the middle of your room, and you're doing assessments, unless you're a chiropractor or physical therapist or whatever, no. Okay. We put feet on the floor. We're going to sprint them. We're going to jump them. I'm going to look at how they warm up. It starts with that.
Starts right when they walk in, like Zach always says.
Yeah, starts when they walk in.
Posture, they like this, both footed.
Most sports take contextually, need this explosive. You need to move fast, right? You need to cover space. It's not just body, limbs moving fast. It's how you move in space, how much ground you cover in space. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Look at it. We measure it. We see where it's at. And kind of compare
baseline results.
Right. We try to compare it to what's out there, and then we just literally start training. Now from there, it might be I might get a kid with maybe he has some training background, or even if he doesn't, I'm going to start off everybody with a version of the 1x20 program because we need.
Love the 1x20.
Yes, we need. And I had a great
summer.
I had a great summer.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. But anyways. Start off with that just to get him, head to toe strong. And we're it's not just the strength stuff. It's jumps, it's throws. It's more of an extensive, general approach, right? And we're gonna go maybe one to three. If you're more experienced, probably 1 month of that, depending on their frequency. Sometimes I get kids once a week, and it takes forever to get them to adapt. Which I can argue.
That's another problem in our industry.
Yeah. Twice a week, and it because sometimes they're going to school, and I understand it, but they're not going to always be doing.
Well, if you want to be better, you just show up. I just don't. Anyway,
right?
So
Twice a week, whatever. I mean, it's just
2 hours out of the week.
The more often and more frequent you do it, program, the quicker you'll adapt to it. That's a principle out of the Dr. B system. Derek Evely. If you want to get those courses, I would look at eviltrack.com. But that opened up my eyes to no end. Anyway, so we're going to start them off 1x20. After that, we can kind of, you can go any type of way, but I like to keep things, you're going to keep loading in the strength end sub-maximal, and we'll still always measure sprints and jumps, potentially throws if you're a thrower every day. That's part of my conjugate principles is I try to kind of borrow a pillar from Glenn Pendlay and give him a chance to PR every day, give him a chance to win every day.
That's what I loved a lot when I was going through your program too.
Yeah, and for us, athletes are going to be better at athleting, so there's less chance of them fucking up a sprint, jump, or a throw than there is a lift. So I really don't do maximal effort lifting with them. We'll extrapolate maxes off of possibly rec maxes, but I always have I have rules to working up, rules to getting stronger. We'll never ever go to a true rep max or a 1 rep max, trying to avoid failure. I always go 1 to 2 reps in a tank. That's actually how I trained myself when I was at my strongest. I never went truly max effort.
Is that what you're dying the next 2 days?
Well, there's a neural cost, right?
Exactly.
Even to like Dr. Bondarchuk would talk about an Olympic level or a PR throw would take about 2 weeks to recover from. So what are we supposed to,
Well, we're gonna do that to our athletes when they have a game this weekend or whatever next weekend.
You can embed the strength testing into your program and keep it going as long as you're not going to a true max effort, which none of them really have the skill set to do.
Unless you're insanely advanced, but even then.
But even then, it's like the neural cost is too much. I would rather get, let's get some quality work in. If we put 5 to 10 more pounds on last time, or we're able to do 1 or 2 more reps, hey, that's great. Boom, let's take it home.
Yep.
Let's go home and recover, and let's let everything else build up at once. So that's my philosophy on it. Even though I'm an ex-power lifter, conjugate guy with the max effort, dynamic effort system, for athletes, I just don't feel, at least the ones at my age group,
Which is mostly what, a high school, you would say?
Yeah, it's kind of a bad practice because, and that's the thing. If you let these kids go and do that, they'll some of these guys will get into pissing matches or whatever, especially the boys. But then they look like lifting like a scared cat. Let's put some quality reps on there. And with that said,
a lot of the kids these days just need quality reps.
Right.
Quality reps.
So then the question becomes, how do we get there? It's like, well, I have different lift standards in order to earn your way to the barbell, right? So there'll be different stuff with like centrated load, like kettlebells, dumbbells, stuff like that, and like a goblet squat or a deadlift, and then we'll start to take the load and expand it this way, put a barbell on it. Yeah. Some kids too, they just don't have the upper body mass to quite squat, so we'll go like double kettlebell front squat, and then we'll get into potentially front squat and stuff like that. So some of it's kind of like they can all trap bar deadlift. There's a low barrier entry for that. That's fine. But then where do you go after that? So if you start with that, where are you going to go after that?
Yep.
For me, that kind of linking or that in between stuff, a lot of power work. So you can do Olympic lift variants. I used to teach them with a bar right away. A lot of stuff, and I love the Olympic lifts, but sometimes it's very tough to get a kid to coordination pattern. Maybe I'm just not that good of a coach at it, but I like teaching with dumbbells first, teach them to snatch first, and then go from there, so to speak. But again, even those lifts are not governed by 1 rep max; they're governed by rep quality.
Right.
And they have to be done dynamically anyway. So that's kind of like in a nutshell how I'll program kids, and I'll always measure something, like something athletic, a sprint jump or a throw, or combinations of all those things, and our explosive block.
Which is also good to see just how they're feeling that day anyway too. You can adjust on the fly, which is a lot of coaches need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
You can kind of be like, hey, did you
you have a big practice this morning?
You're like 20% less on your vert. What's going on? Yeah. And then they'll get I had a sleepover and I didn't get to bed till 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. And then you got a 9 o'clock workout. It's like 8 o'clock work.
And then you got to adjust on the
fly.
They
have no food in their stomach. It's like, oh, there goes the plan.
Right.
Right.
That's where the art of coaching actually happens, right?
You got to have some experience to lateralize stuff on that. Now, obviously, in the one-on-one setting, it's easier. In the team setting, and are you having those conversations as much? It depends, because it's just...
How many are there, on the team?
Yeah, if you're getting a lot of kids in there...
20 to 50?
Surveys help, if you do that sort of stuff, I guess.
Or even still metric testing as well. Still doing that, like what, broad jump, like I did with the team. Yeah,
you can adjust stuff. You can adjust the loads then. Hey, still keep the same movement. We'll take off half the volume or half the load or both. Or, always go back to some sort of faster explosive because, was it Jay Schrader used to say, speed recovers everything. So neurally, they'll get their reflexes back, right? Meaning bar speed, sprinting speed. Maybe they do a couple of sprints.
Yeah, one of my favorite things when I'm not feeling too good, like let's say I'm gonna do some squats, I'll just do speed squats. It feels so much better. Everything feels a lot better. It's one of my favorite things. So.
Yeah, any type of thing you can and there's different ways to rebuild a reflex. There's just so many. You have the RPR type stuff. You have
ISOs. I like to.
Stuff. Yeah, ISOs.
ISOs
been
always.
Recently getting into like oscillatory reps too.
I have to get more into that.
Bouncy reps actually. It's I think Hauser and Dunlap were on that podcast.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
No, I listened to that too.
And you're using sub-maximal training loads, but you're moving stuff fast and you're building those reflexes.
Right.
That reaction of that fascial tissue around it. But that's kind of all that stuff goes in the program.
See ya.
See ya, Monk. All that stuff goes into it. Yeah, cool. But from a basis standpoint, you're starting out with some GPP, kind of going to SPP. But after that 1x20 phase, you're kind of seeing where they gravitate toward, if they respond well, and obviously what their experience level is. But they got to be able to move good under load, and as long as they're staying injury-free, because the other problem is these kids play year-round.
20 million sports. We can have a whole podcast on that.
Not only do they play 20 million sports, but they play all of those at the same time, and the seasons run into each other.
We can have a whole podcast on that, on how...
Yeah, there's no way to really fight it, other than you
need to educate parents. I just don't understand how...
Well, we can educate parents all they want, but once they get caught into the rat race, it's like anything else. It's a fear of missing out, and
we need
they
some
don't
more
want to miss out.
Tommy John talks good about that.
Yeah. I mean, all that stuff is very sound. So maybe that's the sort of stuff you're starting out with. Those kids are. You always want to give them something that they're not doing. The thing is, they're doing so much specificity that like I said, the GPP stuff, the general physical preparedness,
it's going to be huge.
Is neglected.
It's going to be huge if you do it for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Should I answer that too?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. How I program for athletes, I would say a mix of Conja Pete stuff, a bunch of Pete stuff.
Oh.
Definitely, I've been doing a lot more plyos and speed work, so I've been trying to incorporate that, obviously at a smart way, because some people aren't like training how I train. So I guess I would just say like Conja Pit. With a lot of people that I work with need a lot, like you said, GPP. So a lot of regular strength training just to build up some muscles. So basically,
muscle is important.
Just growing muscle for a lot of people is huge, and I actually saw that a lot with my team. Like just them getting some pump and hypertrophy work in was a game changer.
It's surprised how simple that could.
How simple that was for a bunch of my teammates, and all I gotta say was last season there was a lot less injury. There was actually no nagging injuries, I would say, besides like some.
So why would you propose that was? Because of the hypertrophy training. So not let's say what it is. It's kind of like it's building
muscle, hypertrophy,
you're building the body,
building the body,
body armor.
Which a lot of body armor, which a lot of people need.
So what would if any type of go back into a sciencey, I guess mind? Why would you think that is?
Well, the more muscle around the bones and like connective tissue and strengthening those, I guess, just helps them become more resilient. Like, what are you trying to get at?
So I would just say, I guess from a more mechanical standpoint, right? Dr. Mann talks about this in Strength Coach Fundamentals course. I believe its section is hypertrophy. But
Wait, hold on. One thing you'll notice about Pete is he references 20 things that I'm like, what are you talking about?
I want to give credit.
Yeah.
I want to give. I don't want to be like the guy that. I don't want to be the guy that says this and it's like, well, I came up with it. No, I will give credit to where I heard it from. But obviously, if you don't
the amount of things you read,
read, you can say, oh shit. So, anyways, he talked about like the pennation angle and expanding it. So if you just have fibers going this way, or if you have now here, the fibers will run this way. Truck. Enterprise, all right, truck run. But anyways, let's say if you're really skinny and you have the fibers, muscle fibers here, right? So my muscles aren't really growing out. The angle changes, and so therefore the muscular tone changes. So you can produce more force power, but it can also, on the other, can absorb it more.
Absorb it more, yep.
You can resist against it, rather. Some people say it can't be absorbed. So let's just say resist against it. So what is resisting against it? Eccentric, isometric.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So when you're doing all of those impact stuff, for you softball team, right? A lot of high impact stuff. Coaches talk about all the time, shoulder health and deceleration and all this. Well,
arm care.
Yeah, arm care. If you don't have the muscle there to begin with, it's going to be pretty tough. You're going to ask a lot of the connective tissues in the first place. So you can train deceleration and all that, but if you're not building muscle in congruence with it, and we're not talking about putting on 20 pounds or 30 pounds in a month like type shit, or a woman looking like a man and all this other shit that's out there that these people think it's going to happen. It ain't going to happen unless you have all types of exogenous hormones in your body, which last I checked they test in college sports. I mean, you're not going to, that stuff's just not going to happen, especially in the female sports, but if you could put 5 to 7 pounds of lean muscle mass all around your body, you don't think that's going to have a positive effect? Well, then go ahead and go do something somewhere else. But yeah, it all has to do with dealing with force. And obviously, if you're in a contact sport, having more body armor helps you to, when the impact happens, you don't have to pay for it as bad. Yep. But yeah, that's it. Cool. Going down to science, not rabbit hole,
science,
but I call it science butthole.
Science butthole. All right. Next we got, you've said a lot, but people who have influenced us.
No, you go ahead on that.
Me? All right. Pete, I guess. All right. Pete.
I don't know how.
No, yeah.
Terrible influence. If Rachel's still watching, she knows.
Yeah, right. She knows, yeah. I would say, Pete a lot. Gained a lot more different perspective on things. So definitely how I train Pete. A lot of coaches that I follow on Instagram as well, like Latch and Reed, Workhorse, Racehorse, all that stuff. Zach Evanesh was also getting me more into it. Who else have I? Will Rattel, Jake Tura. Brett.
I like Will Rattel's stuff. He's
Yeah.
a very practical dude.
Oh, very practical, yeah. His YouTube's pretty good, too. Brett Hart, if you know him, that's my guy.
The Hitman, Bret Hart?
Yeah, Hitman.
Really?
Yeah. No, not the one you're thinking about.
From Stampede Wrestling?
No, that's his nickname. The
guy called himself, so that's gimmicking for him, but that's okay.
That's his
kidding.
nickname or whatever growing up.
Hey, it's Bret the Hitman Hart, dude.
Yeah,
Who
that's
doesn't want to be
literally
that dude?
That's literally his name, Bret Hart, but he's not the Bret Hart.
Oh, I thought it was like, it's like Jesus Christ.
No, but him.
The sharpshooter and shit.
JD Strength and Performance, also like all these. I guess I've taken a lot from what I've liked from each of these people and just input it into my programming and see what I like the most, what I think works well, what I think doesn't. But I would say generally I have focused more on like what Pete has taught me a lot about. Yes, Zach is a great mentor coach, the best. He's a great guy. I'm doing his certification right now, so I'll be done with that soon. But yeah, I've input. What my favorite thing to do is just grab and try what a lot of coaches are doing and put it into mine and see what I like, take out what I don't like, input things that like ideas I get from people. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. You want anything to say about that?
Yeah, so my coaching influences.
Yeah.
So I kind of categorize it. So those who I've read of, or maybe not have so maybe those I haven't had contact with, but have drawn from information that they've put out. So obviously,
Definitely.
Louis Simmons, Dave Tate.
Oh, Louis Simmons, of course, yeah. I should have said that one.
Glenn Penlay. I'm trying to think as well. Oh gosh, James Thinker Smith. I'm trying to think of all ones. Mel Siff, obviously. Mel Siff. Dan John.
Matt Wenning too. I forgot.
Matt Wenning.
Yeah.
I actually, I'm gonna throw this in there. But when he did his 1200 squat or 1197 out in Sandwich, Illinois, I actually helped hand off his. I was on the side and handed off his bench press that day.
There's a spotlight right here.
Yeah. So back in my.
So it was all you.
Back in Lifter Pete days when I was almost.
Well, we can have a podcast on that. Lifter Pete.
Pounds of pure crap.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. But anyways, like guys like that. People I have contact with, obviously I mentioned Lance Vermeil. I guess it indirectly then Al Vermeil as well, reading his information. I got to, get Lance's perspective from it, but definitely Lance. My first boss, John Alder, whose strength coach at Wisconsin was Jeff Everson, which is a different era, obviously, but still, nonetheless, you got a sense of what work ethic looked like.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe not, Jeff Everson was Corey Everson's husband, who was a bodybuilder, Miss Olympia, I think, a couple times over. So that's, that influence, which is fine. I'm trying to think who have I contact with. Well, obviously, I got to mention Zach Evanesh, who I've read and then had contact with.
One of the best guys in the industry.
Yeah, obviously.
Great guy.
Knows
his shit.
It gives you a sense of work ethic as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else.
I'm mad he's not on this right now.
Yeah, Travis Mash, who read about, got to train with him for about 6 months, and then got to revisit with him out in North Carolina. Awesome. Tom Soroka, who lifted for Glenn way back when. Just got to meet him for the first time recently, about a month ago, which was cool. And then out in North Carolina, got to meet Joe Ken, who read, and I can say I've had contact with him.
Yeah.
And then a guy who was so awesome out in Carolina, the best presentation, I think, was closing the bar with Jeff Hauser. Learned more about speed training in that 2 hours than I have anywhere. And I've been to like clinics with Core Fist and all that stuff is great. Dan Fichter, really great stuff on how to incorporate the brain with what you're doing.
Yeah.
I didn't think who else. My God.
A lot of people.
Yeah,
you can't. It's hard to name everybody.
It is. But I like to categorize it in who I met, who I haven't, who I've read from, information.
Right, where you got your information from.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool.
So I'll just, there's a more extensive list.
Definitely.
Oh, any books by UA Concepts? Joseph Johnson. There you go. Big influence there. I have the whole UA Concepts. What's that?
Commented, old school's the best.
Yeah, there's no better university than the University of Old School. But Joseph Johnson, Derek Evely, oh my God, how could I forget that? But I've read his stuff, and when I think he's still out in Chicago, but have had lunch with him several times. Like, holy crap, man! You will get anything. Like, if you want to learn the Dr. B system, you're unsure about it, get his information, and it just comes through so clearly. It's like, So a lot of that I used for the conjugate. I don't want to call it a method, but the conjugate philosophy.
Yeah.
And specifically with the use of the test exercises and the explosive block. So
yeah.
That can't go unreported. Derek's a huge, and obviously he's a track and field guy, and he's had experience, been successful up and down. He's a very, I hate to say it, he's under the radar. More people should know about him and the work he's done. But yeah, then Derek's a very soft-spoken guy, but he's super cool. If you get a hold of him, please get his stuff. Like, it's gonna make things so much clearer. But yeah, Derek Evely's awesome. Closing the bar with Jeff Hauser. Evely?
Derek. So Derek regular.
Derek.
Derek.
I believe, yes. Derek. And then B kind of starts out like your name.
Ev.
ELY.
ELY.
So
okay, gotcha.
So EV.
I haven't looked into him, so.
Track TRAK.com. Lots of great resources on that. He's got videos from Mike Young. His presentation was awesome in North Carolina, by the way. It's as cut and dry as you get. It's really not that hard, guys. He had a great presentation. Like Strength Coach Pro. Steve Olson's been a great friend. Put on that Killer Clinic. Has a great software out there. I'm not trying to sell his stuff, but he's just awesome.
Yep. We are supported.
He's all over the place, but he's awesome with what he's coming out with and all of his, definitely from a business standpoint, learning a lot from how he views stuff. But yeah, that presentation, I still talk about it. It's the best one I've ever been to. Looking forward to next year. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be more influences to come. Like, I can definitely see I'm learning from her a lot of how the world is being seen through these young people's eyes. Because I got my set and I'm like, what the hell are these people thinking? And I'm like, oh, okay. Gotta see that? It saps your battery.
Oh yeah, pause it.
It's all right.
Oh, that's fine. That's cool.
Anyways, but I guess I won't want to rant on and on about that because it'd be like accepting an award and forgetting people I need to thank.
All right, let's go. All right, last thing, because we've been talking for about, 52 minutes. Let's get
52 minutes.
Yeah,
geez.
right?
I guess.
All right, so let's go one learning experience from the old man. What are you thinking about? What's one learning experience you would like to dump on right here?
One learning experience? What do you mean by
one learning? We said regrets, learning experience, right? You know what I'm saying?
So I guess I regret not staying with weightlifting a little bit more.
See, and I've kind of stayed away from that.
Well, the thing is, expose yourself. So one of the best things you can do to learn about something is learn about something you
what's up, Jay?
Maybe don't like.
Okay, there's Jay.
What's up,
JD
Jay?
Strength and Performance.
Hello. Is learn about something you don't like. So a lot of my stuff.
I generally don't like weightlifting.
So here's the learning experience
the Olympics,
I had,
lifts and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was never a conditioning, work capacity, aerobic dude. Never, ever. Right. But where I learned the importance of this is obviously when I number one lost weight, number two worked with swimmers, and I've worked with I've worked with swimmers since 2000 and
long time.
6. What year is it? 2023.
Yeah.
Fuck.
How did you get into the swimmer?
Oh God.
Well,
just long story short, I was working for a place that had trained a bunch of them.
I was about to say, because you're mostly swimmers now, right? Like, you train a lot.
Not as much as I used to. Part of it is not a lot. There's not as many of them that are doing it. And they think that other places are better, which is fine. Go ahead, but our margin.
Oh, there's Hitman. You see, Brett.
All right, Hitman.
You missed it. We called you out, but whatever. Not called you out, but go ahead.
But anyways, there's places that do a lot of marketing that they think they're better, so they go there. But then their margin of improvement is as good as us.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But what I learned was, their aerobic capacity underpins their ability to deal with lactic acid. Because if you look at the crux, how long is the shortest swim in short course season? It takes about, if you're a fast guy, it's kind of between 20 and 23 seconds. If you're a fast girl, it's about 24 to 25, 26 seconds. So that's in that lactic zone.
Yeah.
How much output can you have for 20 seconds? Oppose that to the shortest event in track, which is around 10 seconds
10
for
seconds,
a guy,
yeah.
12 seconds for a girl.
Yeah.
So that's inside of that lactic whatever. So kind of reading more about conditioning and how to basically, it's one of my principles in the book, condition as you train. Or we go off of time intervals as well.
Which is a huge thing I've liked too, which I've been doing in my training as well.
Yeah, there's different ways you can work with, so working with time. But that's one of those experiences like, aha, read an old book about, written by Fox and Matthews about intervals and, kind of what energy systems are going to be. Now, energy systems don't exist in silos, right?
Never. They're always
they're omnipresent.
Whatever percentage.
But the dominance changes depending on your output and your length. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, certain sports you may need big output, short length, kind of like football, right? Play lasts between 3 and 6 seconds, and then you're resting for about whatever, 30 to 45 or whatever. If you have an up-tempo offense, that changes now. Changes now. Now what you got to do is have that repeat sprintability. In terms of like swimming, you're looking at certain events. Like I said, the shortest event is 20 seconds. What's the next one?
Which is insane, 20 seconds.
Almost a minute. And you go all the way up, at least in short course, you're going
how long?
5 minutes.
I was going to say, how long are they? Yeah.
I mean, and you're going
continuous
for 500 meters, right?
Yeah, swimming. That's always
500 yards, right?
I've respected swimmers because that's tough. We do that for softball, and I'm like dying, out of breath.
You don't really need that for softball, but that's another argument for another day. I mean, but you're conditioned for what? I mean, I remember, being a fan of baseball back in the 90s, and you're seeing a bunch of, overweight dudes and guys smoking heaters in the dugout. Now you don't have one fat dude on a roster, really. I mean, you have maybe like one or two, but they're all way better athletes, and because they figured out if you can train and be a better athlete, well, hell, in baseball, I can play longer and I can get paid. Playing a game. Now you've seen guys a lot more guys that are going deeper into their 40s than you ever have in that sport. Even it's kind of happening at the quarterback position in football. So you got to take care of yourself no matter what you do. But that's definitely a lesson that I learned, how to incorporate certain types of conditioning with plyometric train jumps, explosive train. Yeah, aerobics makes the recovery better, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's how to train that contextually too, because what's aerobic to one
sport could be different to another.
Yes.
Like
or
softball compared to soccer. Just
if you got somebody whose body mass is too much, aerobic for them, a hard aerobic might be a walk, until they can get that body composition in check, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But aerobics do make stuff better. I do, personally myself. I do water in the mouth walking, different types of
I've been
nasal
doing
breathing.
that. I've been doing that.
Sleep with my mouth taped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's hardcore stuff right there. But I tell you what, your breathing gets better, resting heart rate goes down.
I've been doing the water in the mouth stuff because of the racehorse training I'm doing.
That's a tough set. That's a tough set.
We've been doing it like on the bike.
For the EDT that Dietz did, he incorporated the Charles Staley EDTs with the water in the mouth, and you're going for 5-minute sets of singles back and forth for your throwers or your bigger dudes or your linemen. So that could be contextually that's aerobic, doing a 5-minute set like that.
No, literally. I think I'm doing that today too, actually. 5 minutes, doing like a 10-second sprint on the bike with the water in the mouth, and then switching it up to what's it called? Just holding my breath for a steady state.
Wow.
So it's pretty fun. I like it. I had some of my friends do it, and they were dying.
Yeah, because if you don't know how to breathe.
They were exactly. She was like after, but I was feeling good because I've been doing it.
But if you can learn how to breathe nasally, I mean, I just noticed that everything just gets. I'm definitely more relaxed during the day.
Yeah.
I sleep better at night. Obviously, sleeping with the, only nasal breathing.
I was about to say that's kind of crazy.
Well, try it.
Maybe I'll try it one day.
Yeah, you'll wake. And typically too for other coaches who have had problems with like their weight or being heavy or whatever. It just kind of goes with the territory of being strong. But if you can do that, if you notice like you'll get up and have to pee less. It happens
just
when you get older. Or if you wake up with dry mouth, that's not necessarily a good thing. You want that.
Gotcha.
You want that.
Yeah.
So sleeping with helps with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I guess I'll answer the last question. It's like what we're looking forward to. what I'm looking forward to, I guess, just this experience, this next few months. I'm excited to be with Pete, learn a lot of stuff, do the podcast. I actually have a lot of ideas now with this podcast.
Oh boy.
Thinking I might get to, so me and Pete are going to do one probably once a week, right?
Yep.
We'll probably do one once a week. And then I think I'm going to start doing it with some of my friends as well, just to see, like, I'm going to ask some of my teammates how they thought the training was last year, and then like a before and after thing, after like a few months of training. Yeah. And then I'll get some other people, like, we'll see, some other people that I want to talk to.
Perception is key with building buy-in, especially you get a lot of athletes there, depending on what school you're at, and they're there to do the sport. Doing anything extra sometimes is not appealing to them.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and you're going to experience this with the two different environments you're going to be in.
Right.
Level of want, and it's sometimes when you got a hole and the level of want to isn't there, and you're just a glorified babysitter. It's a tough hour to coach. It's
more draining than the other one.
Yeah, it is because you're trying to put your best foot forward, prep the room, put together a program, and then none of them want to follow it, none of them want to do it, and then you're handcuffed by administration, or parents, or whatever.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing about.
They don't want any criticism or whatever. Sometimes criticism is a part of coaching, and if they can't handle it, it's like, what the hell are they going to do when they're in the real world?
That's a whole other thing that I've been getting used to, training more people.
Uncoachable kids or
uncoachable people,
kids, unhireable.
Or people that are just lazy. I just don't understand. Like, I get like having a bad day and being tired, but there's just, we can talk about that later. I've talked about that with Jay if he's still on here. Jay and I have had long talks about how some kids, I'm like, how are you? If you want to go to AAA hockey and you're not even willing to put in the minimum amount of work, what are you doing? I just don't understand.
Everybody wants the awards and the accolades, but they when it comes to doing the work,
I don't know.
Like, well,
I don't understand
you're going to pay for it on the back half somehow.
Don't understand it, but
yeah. So
I guess I'm a more old school type of person.
Yeah, and I guess just
in some ways.
Yep. Well, that's good. You're an old soul. I guess what I'm looking forward to is just passing on a decent wealth of knowledge to Evie, and then she can carry out in the world, and now my hooks go out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely, on I guess the detriment of not being as active on social media or not being as, I don't know, as personable as a guy or being as outgoing is no one knows who the fuck I am.
Exactly.
But that's okay, because I would rather have people like you that are on this know who the hell I am rather than some Joe Schmo down the street.
Right, exactly.
Who doesn't want to do anything.
Who doesn't even care, yeah.
Yeah, so
got you.
It's more, for me, it's like, what is that saying? You're the conglomerate of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yep.
So I want to surround myself with solid folks.
Some good people. Yeah.
If you don't have the same value set and the same integrity, get the hell out.
Right.
I guess that's, I guess I'm not being inclusive, but hey, being the best is not an inclusive thing. Not everybody can be the best. That's why there's only one best.
Right.
And for those who are striving to get there, understand that sometimes you may put your best foot forward. It takes a while. It takes a while to get there, but one day you will get there and get your name amongst them.
Yep.
So, but that's sports to me. That's kind of being competitive.
Being competitive, yeah.
Because win or lose, success or failure, you'll do one of two things. If you win or you're successful, you find out what you're capable of, which is cool, builds confidence, right? 2, if you lose or you fail, you find out what you need to work on.
Yeah, you learn.
Then you work on it, and then you take the next step.
Everything.
That's the whole
Every
point.
Experience, I think, is worth it. Mm-hmm. You learn something, or you did something good, and then you can adjust.
What or what not to do.
Yeah,
it's
what and what not
simple.
to do. Exactly.
Very few are there very vanilla experiences.
Right.
If they are, then it really wasn't an experience.
Yeah, but I doubt. I was about to say, just something that happened.
Just no vanilla.
You learn something. Everything happens for a reason. If you want to talk about some philosophy, But yeah, okay. So I think that was good, right? We got an hour, 3 minutes about.
Oh, here we go.
Cool.
63 minutes.
All right. So thanks for everyone listening.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Cool. Till the next time.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Are you sure you want to end your live video?
Oh, I gotta pee.